She kissed me the same way she always did, gentle, familiar. I could taste coffee on her breath, smell that lavender shampoo she always used. There was no pause, no moment that hinted at anything unusual. Just a quick goodbye, followed by the typical reminders. I love you. Don't forget to sign Jeremy's field trip form. I won't, I said, watching her roll her suitcase through the garage door. I heard the door open, then the sound of her car backing out. The garage closed behind her, but I kept staring at that door long after she was gone. This made it her third business trip in just 6 weeks. She said something important was happening at work, big pitch, tight timeline, demanding client. It all sounded rehearsed, like she had practiced the delivery. Claire had always been sharp at her job, proud of it, even. I had no reason not to believe her. But this time, something about the way she smiled felt off. Too polished, too smooth. I glanced at the wall calendar. Red markers spelled out, Denton, Wednesday to Friday. Denton is a small city not far from us. Close enough that she could have driven. But she booked a flight, claiming she wanted to save her energy and might not have time to talk much. Maybe a quick message or two if she got a minute. That was not like her. In the early days, she used to call from hotel rooms just to say goodnight. Sometimes she would send goofy selfies with bad room service or make fun of the strange paintings hanging in the hallways. Lately, not even a joke. I told myself to trust her. I really wanted to. But a couple things had happened recently that did not sit right with me. The first was 6 weeks back. She called me from her hotel, panicked, saying someone had stolen her purse. Told me to cancel all her cards. Said the hotel staff was digging through dumpsters and that she might have to rely on taxis to get around the rest of the trip. The second came when I was digging through our files, looking for our insurance information. I stumbled across her Fidelity investment account. Claire never exactly kept her finances hidden, but she never offered up details either. That account had her parents' inheritance, over $400,000. She never touched it until 6 weeks ago. $3,000. A check made out to a jewelry store in the same city she had just returned from. I called the store and pretended there was a warranty issue. "Oh yes," the woman said. "Your wife came in to replace her wedding and engagement rings." She was very upset, told us they had been stolen. From her purse? I asked. Yes. She said it happened at a party. She was dancing. That was the moment something clicked. Claire never mentioned a party. She said the purse went missing in the hotel lobby while she was picking up a newspaper. But the hotel theft report? It included a note about her dancing and said no police report was filed. That is when the question started to stick in my mind at night, keeping me from sleeping. Why was she dancing alone during a work trip? Why lie about where the purse was taken? And more than anything, why were her rings off in the first place? I did not confront her. I did not raise my voice or slam any doors. That is not how I operate. I have always believed that emotion muddies the facts. I needed something solid. The night before her next trip, she pulled into the garage just after 6 in the evening. She hummed softly as she got out of the car. Her suitcase was already in the back. No briefcase in the passenger seat, which meant it had to be in the trunk. At dinner, she laughed at our son's broccoli jokes, handed me a beer, and kissed my cheek, saying how much she would miss us. She said the pitch could run late and not to wait up. I smiled. "Just do not forget your toothbrush this time." She grinned. Already packed. Around 9:30, she went upstairs to organize her overnight bag. Said she would shower in the morning. That was my moment. I told her I was going to check on the slow leak in her tire. Took her car keys and drove to Jerry's garage, the one I have trusted since high school. I pulled into his bay and told him I just needed a few minutes to look at something. He nodded. No questions. That kind of loyalty is rare. I opened the trunk. The briefcase was there, clicked open with barely a sound. The top section had regular things, printouts, receipts, a hairbrush. But in the side pocket, tucked behind a computer mouse and a small bottle of painkillers, I found a flat silver package. Condoms. 3 missing. My hand stayed steady. My breathing did not change. I just stared at that packet, knowing exactly what it meant. I had a vasectomy 5 years ago, right after Melissa was born. Claire and I agreed. No more kids. So if she had condoms, they were not for me. I placed everything back exactly as I'd found it. Snapped the briefcase shut. thanked Jerry, then drove home. By the time I got inside, Claire was already under the covers. "You all right?" she asked sleepily as I climbed into bed. "Yeah," I said. "Just a little tired." She curled into me like nothing had changed. But I stared at the ceiling, eyes open. In the morning, she would be flying to Denton, and I would be calling a private investigator. She left at 7:26 the next morning, sharp as always. Same black pants, same navy blouse. Her hair done up in that soft twist that framed her face just right. She kissed the kids, then me, and promised to call when she landed. She did not look nervous. That was the most unsettling part. I watched her drive off from the kitchen window. The street was quiet. A recycling truck turned the corner. One of our neighbors walked by with their dog. It all looked normal, but normal does not mean honest. At 10 o'clock, I made my move. I had already spoken to a private investigator, the kind who works through referrals. No website, no office, just a number whispered between men who have been in this kind of storm before. I gave him everything: her flight number, the hotel, a recent photo, even a description of her briefcase. He told me someone would be in place by that evening. Until then, he said to stay steady, stay quiet, and if I could, plant eyes and ears where they would matter most. That afternoon, I headed to Claire's office. Brought a charger she had supposedly forgotten. Nothing strange about a husband dropping something off. I signed into the front desk, smiled at the receptionist, and rode the elevator up. Her office door was unlocked. That was unexpected. I stepped inside, shut it behind me, and scanned the room. Everything was neat, just like she kept it. But one drawer on the desk was not fully closed. I pulled it open. At first, nothing unusual: pens, sticky notes, a half-eaten granola bar. But beneath a stack of training materials, I found a pack of mints, and right next to them, a small travel-sized bottle of lubricant. I stared at it. A woman with a husband who cannot get her pregnant and no known complaints at home does not need that in her desk drawer, especially not paired with condoms in her suitcase. I took a photo, left everything untouched. That evening, the investigator called. She had checked in alone, ate a light dinner in the hotel bar, had one drink, went up to her room before 10. No visible company, no suspicious behavior. Anything come through her phone? I asked. "We are working on it," he said. "Depends on what app she uses and how cautious she is. If she's using encrypted messaging, it could take some time." I thanked him and hung up. Frustrated, yes, but not rushed. I have always known how to wait. It was sometime around midnight when I gave up on sleep. I headed downstairs, made myself a cup of tea, and sat in the dark living room with just the hum of the fridge and the glow from my phone screen for company. I started swiping through old pictures. Our wedding day. Claire smiling, hair pinned back just right, hands locked with mine like it meant forever. A shot of her holding Jeremy when he was just a few weeks old. Melissa's second birthday, frosting on her cheeks, Claire holding her like something sacred. And then the questions came, the kind I had pushed away the day before but could no longer ignore. Had this just begun, or had it been happening all along? Was there only one man? Or had she done this more than once, on other trips, in other cities? But the one that cut deepest was simple. Why didn't she just leave? Because that would have taken guts. Divorce is a full stop. Cheating is a balancing act. It means wanting the life we built and something else on the side. It is selfishness dressed up as exhaustion. She said she was tired, said things were busy. I knew better. By Friday morning, more details had surfaced. The private investigator had trailed her the second night. She had eaten dinner alone again and gone up to her room just after 10. But not long after, a man entered the building from the far side of the lobby, carrying a bottle of wine and 2 glasses. No name on the hotel registry. No record of a key card issued in his name. Likely a colleague. He rode the elevator to her floor. He did not leave until after 3 in the morning. The investigator could not get inside, of course. No photos from the room. But he did capture something that said more than any shot of a kiss ever could. Claire's face when the man arrived. Recognition, anticipation, and that smile. Not one you give a friend or a coworker. A smile filled with something intimate. She returned home Friday night, just like before, kissed my cheek, tossed out an excuse. "Sorry I didn't get a chance to call." It was nonstop. Worn out. I asked. She let out a sigh. Completely. I just want to crawl on a bed. I helped her carry the suitcase in. It felt lighter than before. She went to shower. I slipped into the garage and opened the suitcase under the yellow glow of the overhead bulb above my workbench. The cocktail dress was gone. So were the condoms. That weekend, I kept my distance. Not because I was angry. Not even because I felt betrayed in a way that demanded cold shoulders or silence. I did it because I had to. Because if I let go of that thin thread of restraint, I might say something I could not pull back. Claire acted like nothing had changed. Sunday morning, she made breakfast in her robe, humming softly while the kids watched cartoons. She teased Jeremy about his bedhead, joked with Melissa about which bike she should get for summer. She leaned over while I was rinsing dishes, kissed my neck, and whispered, "I missed you." I turned, slowly. "You didn't call." She gave me a small, practiced grin. It was just so hectic. There it was again. That same excuse. Said like a line from a play she had performed too many times. Polished. Unoriginal. I nodded. No words. Not yet. We went to church later that morning. The picture of a picture-perfect family. Sat shoulder to shoulder on the wooden pews while Pastor Ryan spoke about loyalty and temptation. Claire fidgeted with her wedding band, fingers turning it in slow, mindless circles. At one point, she looked at me and smiled. And that is when I saw it, clear as day. She thought she had gotten away with it. She believed I was either too naive to suspect her or too weak to do anything if I did. She was wrong. That night, once the kids were tucked in, she curled up next to me in bed and asked if I wanted to watch a movie. I picked something old, slow-paced. The conversation. She did not catch the meaning. A man listening to lies through walls. Secrets, betrayal, silence layered over truth. Halfway through, she dozed off. I waited until her breathing was steady, then slipped out of bed and into the office. My phone buzzed, an email from the investigator. The first set of photos had come in. There she was, standing in a hotel bar. The man beside her, dressed in a dark blazer. Mid-40s maybe. Clean look. A company badge clipped to his lapel. No physical contact, but the way they stood close told me more than touch ever could. They were familiar. Comfortable. Like this was not new. I studied every photo carefully. No kisses. No hallway embraces. But the details did not lie. The timestamp. His presence. The message in her body language. It was all there. Then I saw the intercepted message. It came from her phone, sent while she was still at the bar. Room 712. Bring the good wine. No flirtatious emojis. No winks. No games. Just a room number and a request. A plan. I gripped the desk edge hard. The wood creaked under my hand. I did not cry. I did not yell. This was not the kind of heartbreak that made noise. It was deeper than that. Colder. The kind that wraps around your chest and does not let go. She chose this. Looked at her children, our home, the life we spent years building, and decided it was not enough. And even knowing that, I still loved her. Or maybe I just loved the version of her I thought was real. I shut the laptop. The next morning, I stood back and watched her get the kids ready for school. She packed their lunches, kissed their heads, adjusted their backpacks. And I found myself wondering, how does someone live in two worlds like this? How can she act like a devoted mother while lying so smoothly? Before she left, she turned to me. "You staying late tonight?" she asked. "Maybe," I said. She smiled and touched my arm, then walked out the door like nothing in the world was wrong. I did not go to work that day. Instead, I drove to a small law office 2 towns over, far enough not to attract attention, close enough for convenience. Thomas Riley was the attorney's name. Late 50s, silver hair, eyes sharp and calm. He had seen plenty of marriages come apart. I told him what I knew, what I had, what I suspected. He listened carefully. "You want to keep things clean?" he asked. "Or burn it down?" "I want it to hurt," I said. The way her betrayal hurt me. He nodded once. "We will need more. A photo inside the hotel room would be ideal. Any proof that physical contact occurred." "She uses protection," I muttered. He raised an eyebrow. "So, it was not spontaneous." I nodded. He said he would have his team connect with my investigator. If this was not the first time, we would find the pattern. Then he handed me a thick folder. "Once you are ready, we can file in 24 hours. I left with the envelope in the glove box. I never opened it again that day, but I knew it was there, waiting. That evening, when Claire got home, she greeted me the same way she always had. A kiss, a soft smile. She smelled like her usual perfume, like trust in a bottle. I kissed her back, and it finally made sense to me how some couples stay married for years, even when secrets sit right there between them. Because the act is easier than the confrontation. Because the comfort of routine feels safer than facing the damage. But I was not going to keep pretending. I was just waiting for the right moment to strike the match. Tuesday morning started like any other. Scrambled eggs sizzling in the pan. Cartoons playing on the living room television. The sound of cereal bowls tapping against the counter. Claire moved through the kitchen like nothing had changed. Smiling. Focused. Humming a tune from the car radio. It made my stomach turn. Not from anger. From recognition. She was not my wife anymore. She was just someone playing the role. And she had no idea what I had already set in motion. Investigators were lining up timelines, pulling flight logs, checking texts. Another one had already started digging into the man from the hotel. Room 712. I wanted her to know, not just get caught. I wanted to see her realize I knew. So I started small, just enough to plant the seed. Melissa's teacher pulled me aside yesterday. I said over breakfast. Said she seems more balanced lately. Happier. Said sometimes kids respond when things settle down at home. Claire hesitated, blinked. That is nice. You have been gone so much lately, I said. But maybe she knows we're reconnecting. Her eyes narrowed, just slightly. The first crack. Are we? She asked. I smiled. Of course. That night, I slept with her. Not for love. Not for forgiveness. To lull her. To make her believe everything was okay. In the morning, I left a note on her vanity. You are the only woman I will ever love. And the only one who could destroy me. I watched her read it in the mirror. Saw the tremble in her hands. She said nothing, but she was quiet the entire day. By Thursday, she started pacing. Called me twice at work for no real reason. Just small talk. Hey, she said. Did you remember to grab milk? I did, I said. Stopped by the hardware store too. Thinking of changing the locks. These old ones keep sticking. Silence on the other end. That was the moment she knew. She just didn't know how much I already had. She gave a small laugh, but it was forced, the kind of sound people make when they're trying too hard. You, in your little projects, she said, brushing it off. Yeah, I replied, keeping my voice level. Just want to make sure everything's secure. That night, once the kids were tucked in and the house had gone quiet, Claire opened a bottle of wine. Something expensive, deep red, dust on the cork. Probably a bottle we had been saving for a special occasion. She poured 2 glasses, handed me one, and curled up beside me on the couch. Draped her leg over mine. Her fingers brushed lightly against my wrist, like she was trying to remind me of something we used to be. Are we good? She asked quietly. I turned my head to face her. Why wouldn't we be? She looked down, gave a half-hearted shrug. I don't know. You just seemed off, like your mind is somewhere else lately. I leaned over and kissed her temple. Maybe it is, I said. Maybe I'm just trying to remember the woman I used to know. She went still. Not for long. Just a heartbeat. But it was enough. The next morning, I left a folder on the kitchen table before heading out. Nothing explosive. No photos. No confrontations. Just a single printed email from her company's travel department. It confirmed a room upgrade at her hotel. From a standard queen to an executive king. Approved and signed by her manager. The same man who showed up at her door with wine. She found it while packing the kids' lunches. I sat at the counter with a cup of coffee, pretending to read the news on my phone. She held that page longer than she needed to. Her face didn't move, but her grip on the paper gave her away, tight, white-knuckled. She said nothing. She folded it up slowly, walked to the trash, and shoved it beneath used coffee filters and leftover toast crusts. I did not say a word. We both knew the rules had changed. Later that night, I heard her crying in the shower. She thought the water would cover the sound. It did not. I lay there in bed, staring at the ceiling, counting the seconds, listening to her sob quietly behind the bathroom door. I wondered if her tears were for me, or for the life she knew was slipping away from her. She came to bed without saying anything. Hair still damp. Eyes red. She curled up tightly on her side of the mattress and did not face me. I did not touch her. I just kept staring at the wall. I had her attention now. No fights. No shouting. Just precision cuts. Small, quiet wounds that bled the truth. Let her start questioning what I knew, how long I had known, who I had spoken to, how deep I had gone. That is when she would panic. And that is when I would make my move. Saturday morning rolled in with the weight of everything unspoken. Claire moved around the house like she was a visitor. Light steps, no eye contact, hands only touching what they needed to. She thanked me for the coffee I brought her, but did not kiss me. She folded laundry that was already folded. Her eyes were hollow from lack of sleep. I said nothing. Let the silence do the work. The kids were staying with my parents for the weekend. Had been planned for a while. Claire's idea, actually. Back then it probably felt like a break. Now it was just an opening. I let the quiet stretch through breakfast, through pretending to organize the garage, through her dusting under couch cushions for the 5th time, like she had lost something vital. Finally, just before noon, she cracked. I found something on the printer last night, she said from the kitchen. Her hands were braced against the counter, white-knuckled again. Was that meant for me? Did you read it? I asked, not looking up from my coffee. She hesitated. That's what happens when you find something. You read it, I said. If it was for you, it doesn't matter. If it wasn't, well, then you were snooping. She didn't respond right away. Then, who gave it to you? I smiled at that. The wrong question. It was not what is this, or why do you have it? It was who told. No denial. No defense. Just blame. I stood up and walked over slowly, every step deliberate. It doesn't matter who, I told her. What matters is that I know. Her eyes scanned my face, looking for something, limits, forgiveness, any sign of how deep the damage ran. I don't, she started. I raised my hand. Don't insult us both. Her mouth clamped shut, lips tight, pale. Her whole face collapsed inward like she was folding under the pressure of her own guilt. Still no apology, no confession. So I gave her the last twist to the blade. I know about room 712, I said. Her eyes widened. I know who signed for the upgrade. I know about the wine. I know about your ring replacements. I know what time your emails go out between midnight and 3. I know about the condoms in your bag. I know what's in your desk drawer. Then I leaned in close, just enough for her to smell the coffee on my breath. And I know what your face looked like when you walked into that bar. That broke her. Her breath hitched. Her frame seemed to shrink. She dropped into the nearest chair and buried her face in her hands. Her shoulders shook, not from sorrow, but fear. The kind of fear that comes when someone realizes they have lost control. I didn't mean to hurt you, she said, barely above a whisper. That is the worst part, I said. You just didn't care. She looked up, her face streaked with tears, and finally asked the one question I had been waiting for. How long? I let the pause linger. Long enough to plan. That is when her face changed. The sadness hardened, turned to anger. Real anger. Not regret. What are you going to do? She asked. Now she was speaking her language. Strategy. Threat management. Crisis control. Not about us. Not about feelings. Just damage. I stepped back and crossed my arms. That depends, I said. Was this just once? Or are there others? She said nothing. She didn't need to. That silence told me everything. That night, she stayed in the guest room. Not because I asked her to, because she knew the bed we used to share did not belong to her anymore. I stayed awake, staring at the ceiling, going over everything again. Tried to decide which hurt more, the betrayal itself, or how easy it had become for her to lie to me without a blink. Because this wasn't just a slip. This was a system, built over time, thought out, executed with precision. Now that it was all in the open, the question wasn't whether I could forgive her. The question was how much I wanted her to lose. I didn't ask for her to confess. That would have been a favor, something to clear her conscience. I gave her nothing, no closure, no outlet, just silence, cold and sharp, stretching across the space between us like barbed wire. The next morning, Claire moved carefully. She cooked breakfast for the kids like nothing was happening. Folded my clothes, left coffee on my desk. I drank it while pulling up legal paperwork. By lunchtime, I was on the phone with a new attorney, one recommended by a friend who had been through his own war. No fluff, no wasted words. I want the house. I wanted kids, and I want her to get nothing more than the minimum, I told him. He didn't blink. Tell me about the affair. There is more than one. One confirmed, others likely. I've got surveillance photos, travel records, phone activity, and more on the way. Prenuptial agreement? No prenup, I told him. But I've got leverage. He paused. Children involved? 2. Still young. And they're the only reason I haven't burned everything to the ground yet. He gave a short grunt. Understood. Then we play this quietly. Collect everything. When the time comes, she'll be cornered. Exactly the strategy one was after. Over the next 3 days, I became a version of myself I had never met before. Focused, cold, efficient. I began shifting money. Not illegally, but carefully. I opened new accounts in just my name, rerouted every deposit, canceled all automatic transfers tied to our joint account. I kept records of every transaction, every form filed. If this ended up in court, I wanted to walk in with clean hands and a clear paper trail. I also copied everything I could access from her laptop, emails, schedules, calendar appointments. I even found a hidden folder of photos she probably forgot existed. Selfies taken in hotel rooms. Hair tousled, lipstick fresh, the kind of images wives stop sending after the honeymoon phase ends. Not dirty, but intimate. They were not for me. I downloaded them all, and I never said a word. Midweek, I stopped by the private investigator's office again. This time, he handed me a thicker envelope. She saw him again, he said. Tuesday night. Different city. Same pattern. Same guy. He nodded. Same room number 2. These places keep it simple. I flipped through the photos. Her, sitting at the bar, laughing, hand on his arm, leaning in close. Then the elevator. A kiss, right before the door slid shut. That was the one. Not suspicion. Not guesswork. Proof. I stared at the image until the investigator cleared his throat. You want to go all the way? He asked. I didn't respond, but he saw the answer in my eyes. When I got home, Claire was watching a movie with the kids. She looked up, searching my face like she always used to, hoping to find the man she married. He wasn't there. That night, she came to our bed instead of the guest room, rested her head against my chest. I miss how things used to be, she whispered. I didn't move. Do you think we can fix it? She asked, so quietly it was almost a breath. I waited a few seconds, then whispered back, I already am. The next morning, I transferred the deed to the house into a trust. The home was in my name from the start, paid for with inheritance money she never touched. My attorney explained how to lock it down. His team had the paperwork drawn up overnight. Then I filed for legal separation, not divorce. It froze everything we shared. No more surprise withdrawals. No sudden spending. All major decisions now needed both of us to sign off. It was the first shot across the bow. Claire found the papers on Friday morning. She didn't say anything at first, just left them on the counter like an unpaid bill, hoping maybe if she ignored them, they'd disappear. But that night, after the kids were asleep, she finally snapped. You're punishing me, she said, barely holding it together. You're trying to ruin me. I looked up from my laptop. Calm. Controlled. No, I'm just making sure you don't ruin me first. I told you I was sorry. No, I said. You never did. Her mouth opened, then closed again. And then, finally, the truth poured out. Not the kind that makes anything better. The kind you hear once and never forget. It wasn't serious. It didn't mean anything. I felt like I was disappearing. Disappearing? I said, laughing once. So you decided to feel something by setting fire to your whole life? She was trembling now, voice broken. I didn't think it would go this far. You never do, I said. That's exactly the problem. She stood there like she wanted to say more, like she wanted to beg, to find the right combination of words to take it all back. But I was already past the point of pity. This was not about grief anymore. It was about control, about tearing down the lies she built, one quiet, careful step at a time. I didn't have to yell, didn't need to make a scene. All I had to do was let silence hang in the air like a storm waiting to break. People like Claire, people who juggle 2 lives, they depend on control. They craft their image like a sculptor handles clay. Carefully, deliberately. I just had to knock one piece loose. Then everything else started to crumble. It started with a single forwarded email. Nothing special, Just a message from her company account to a hotel chain, asking for a room with more privacy. Sent to her boss. Copied to a junior employee named Aaron. Maybe on purpose. Maybe not. I sent it anonymously to her company's internal tip line. No commentary. No attachments. Just, might want to look into this. Could raise some eyebrows. Within 2 days, the rumor started. She came home for work on Wednesday looking drained. Her mouth tight. Her jaw clenched. "You all right?" I asked, acting the part. She nodded once. Long day. Some tension at work. Tension. She never used that word before. The next move came Friday afternoon. An envelope. No name. No return address. Left on the windshield of her boss's car in the company garage. Inside? Photos. From the hotel bar. From the elevator. The kiss before the doors closed. All dated. All time-stamped. I didn't add a note to the envelope. Didn't need to. By Sunday, Claire got the call. She was sitting on the edge of the bed, phone to her ear, staring into nothing. She barely said a word. Just nodded a few times, quiet as ever. Then she ended the call and set the phone down like it had burned her. I didn't ask who it was. She didn't offer it up. She didn't have to. I already knew about her company's policy. Zero tolerance for office relationships, especially between management and subordinates. I'd read the whole thing the night I saw the photo of her kissing him. He was her supervisor. And now, he was a threat, not just to her marriage, but to her job. On Monday, she never left the house. She sat at the dining room table with her laptop open but untouched. Her phone was face down, screen dark, like she couldn't bear to see what else might come through. Sometime around lunch, I got a message from a guy I used to coach soccer with. He worked in the same department as her. It said, "Not trying to stir anything, but is everything all right with you and Claire? People at the office are talking. Just thought you want to know." I didn't reply. Just deleted it. She was right across the room when my phone buzzed. I caught her glance, but she said nothing. Kept pretending everything was fine, like she could still pretend her way out of the hole she dug. I could have done a lot more if I wanted to. Posted the photos. Sent copies to every judgmental relative and close friend. Made a public example of her. But that would have made her a victim, and I didn't want her pitted. I wanted her alone. So I stayed quiet and waited. A week passed. Then she walked into the kitchen while I was pouring coffee. Her eyes were puffy, the corners red. No makeup, no words at first. "I've been suspended," she finally said. "They're doing an investigation." I took a sip of coffee. "What for?" She winced. You mean the affair?" She flinched when I said it. That was the first time I'd used the word out loud. "It wasn't supposed to become this," she murmured. "It was just something I could escape into." I nodded. Funny. Most people escape from prison. Not into one. She sank into the nearest chair. Her body just seemed smaller. Like whatever strength she used to fake her way through things had finally worn out. "I might lose my job." "Yeah," I said. "You might." We sat there in silence. The clink of my spoon against the coffee cup the only sound between us. The next day, I made arrangements. I had the kids dropped off at my sister's place for the weekend. Told Claire I needed space. That we should think separately before anything got finalized. She didn't argue. She packed a bag, grabbed her keys, and left the house without a word. I didn't ask where she was going. But out of habit, I checked the shared location tracker. There she was. Same hotel as before. Same block of rooms. I stared at the screen for a moment, then laughed to myself. Not because it was funny, but because it was so painfully predictable. She had burned her life to the ground, and now she was retreating to the ashes like she thought it might still feel like safety. I spent the weekend cleaning, literally and figuratively. Scrubbed the house top to bottom. Changed passwords. Locked down every account. Sat down with my attorney. "She's falling apart," he said. "If you want full custody, now is the time." I didn't answer right away. "Let her sit in it a little longer," I said. "Let it all catch up to her." He chuckled. "You're not out for revenge, are you?" "Not even close," I said. I just finally stopped letting myself get blindsided. By Sunday evening, the house was still. Clean. Too clean. Like a home nobody lived in. I sat at the kitchen table with a notepad and a pen. It's how I think best, writing things out. Pen scratches, no distractions. At the top of the page, I wrote one word. Aftermath. Then I drew a line down the middle. 2 columns. What I want, what I'll do. It probably sounds cold. Maybe it was. But when you've been lied to inside your own home, your emotions become a liability. You learn to think like a surgeon. No hesitation, no panic. You cut out what's infected. You save what you can. Claire came back late that night. No warning. No call. She still had a key. She stepped inside quietly, like she was afraid of waking ghosts. I was on the couch, flipping through a file folder. She hovered in the doorway. "Hey," she said, barely above a whisper. I looked up from the folder. "Back from a scene of the crime?" She winced. "Can you not do this right now?" "Why not?" I asked. "You already dropped the act. Let's not pretend Halloween's still on the calendar." She did not move from the doorway, just stood there like a defendant waiting for a verdict. "I've started talking to someone," she finally said. "A therapist. And that's supposed to mean what to me?" I said flatly. "It doesn't," she admitted. I need you to know I'm trying to figure out how I let this happen." I closed the folder and leaned back into the couch. "It's not complicated. You wanted something else. You thought you wouldn't get caught. You rolled the dice with our life for a few nights in hotel beds and bottles of cheap wine. That's not fair." "No," I cut in. "That's just honest." She slowly lowered herself into the armchair across from me, shoulders sagging like something inside her had caved. Her hair was pulled back the way she used to wear it on chore-heavy Sundays, but her makeup was smeared and her fingers were visibly shaking. "I don't know what you want from me," she whispered. I looked her in the eye, and it hit me. She still thought this was about getting me back, that she could explain this away, that maybe if she cried enough, apologized enough, I would fold. But she misunderstood the script. This was not a second chance. This was a reckoning. "I want to show you something," I said. I reached into the folder beside me and pulled out 2 documents. The first one, a detailed list of every financial move I had made in the past 3 weeks. Every wire transfer, every trust account, every action recorded and legal. The second, a copy of the custody agreement I was ready to file. She took them in both hands and read in silence. Her eyes stopped when she saw the section about supervised visitation. Her breath hitched. "You can't do this," she said, voice breaking. "I can," I told her. "And unless you agree to what's sitting on the kitchen counter, I will." She turned slowly, like she had just noticed it. The envelope had been there since the moment she walked in. Now it might as well have had a fuse sticking out of it. She opened it with careful, trembling fingers. Inside was a divorce settlement. Clean. Surgical. No alimony. I keep the house. Primary custody goes to me. She gets alternating weekends and a fair split of the holidays. She keeps her car, and she walks away with what little is left of her last name. She read through it again. Then again. "This is kind," she said. "After everything I did." I nodded. "It is." Her brow furrowed. She looked genuinely confused. "Why?" she asked. "You could have completely destroyed me." "I still could," I said, calm as anything. "But this gives you a chance to leave with some dignity. Sign it, and it ends here. No court. No depositions. No need to explain to anyone why room 712 kept showing up on your receipts. And if I say no," I leaned in, steady and deliberate, "then I bring everything into the light. I send it to your boss, your mother, your sister. And when the time comes, I tell the kids the truth. When they're old enough to understand why their mother packed condoms for business trips and came home with new wedding rings." Her mouth fell open, eyes wide, and that was the moment she broke completely. She signed. Her hand shook the whole time. Her name, written in ink, looked like it barely belonged to her anymore. "I do love them," she said quietly, almost pleading. "The kids. I swear I never meant to hurt them. I did this because I needed to feel something again." "You wanted to feel alive," I said, standing. "Now you get to feel consequences." I left her sitting there and walked upstairs. 5 minutes later, I heard the front door open and close behind her. That night, I sat at Jeremy's bedside for a long while, just watching him breathe. I did the same with Melissa. They didn't know the full truth yet, just that Mom was moving to a different house. Eventually, we'd figure out how to tell the rest. But for now, they had one parent who was still here, one who did not lie to them. The next morning, I met with my lawyer and handed over the signed paperwork. It was done. No more secrets. No more standoffs. just the final stage, aftermath. And when I walked out of the courthouse, the sun finally cut through the overcast sky. It wasn't justice. It wasn't peace. But it was mine. And in this life, sometimes that is enough.